On October 6, 2018, Khabib made Conor McGregor tap out in the fourth round and, losing his temper, jumped over the octagon fence onto McGregor's team. Due to the events that followed the match, both Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov were penalized and couldn't enter the octagon for a long time. On September 7, 2019, Khabib returned with the UFC 242 card, and his opponent was Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier became the interim champion of the weight class after defeating Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, and Max Holloway in succession. The UFC matched the suspended champion Khabib with Dustin Poirier, the interim champion, in his absence. September 7, 2019 was very important for Khabib because his father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, was watching his son from his corner for the last time. Although Dustin caught Khabib in a guillotine during the fight, Khabib managed to escape and submitted Dustin Poirier in the second minute of the fourth round. After defeating Conor and Dustin, Khabib's next opponent was Tony Ferguson, who was on a 12-fight winning streak. The rapidly spreading coronavirus began to have a significant impact, leading to the postponement or cancellation of many sports events. It was during this time that the Tony Ferguson vs. Khabib match, which had been scheduled 5 times before, was about to take place. Due to the lack of communication from the UFC, Khabib thought that the match would not happen and returned to Dagestan. With Russia closing all its borders due to the virus, the match that was about to take place was on the verge of being completely canceled. The UFC removed Khabib, who was in Russia, from the UFC 249 card scheduled for May 9, 2020, and included Justin Gaethje, who was on a 3-fight winning streak. Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson were set to face off for the interim lightweight belt, with the winner challenging Khabib. On May 9th, the bell rang and the fight began. Justin Gaethje, calm and performing very well throughout the 5 rounds, knocked out Tony Ferguson in the 5th round with the referee intervening. After winning the interim lightweight belt, Justin took off the belt and threw it on the ground, indicating that he wanted the real belt and that the interim belt didn't mean anything. He stated this to everyone after the match. Khabib's father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, wanted his son, who had a record of 28 wins and 0 losses, to fight 2 more times and then give his place to Islam. This was the father's plan. In 2020, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov also contracted the coronavirus and passed away. With his father's death, everyone was wondering how Khabib would come back, as his next opponent was perhaps the most dangerous in his career. Justin Gaethje, with his wrestling background, was breaking his opponents and even enjoyed the pain he inflicted on himself. About 3 years ago, Khabib finished Justin Gaethje, considered his toughest opponent, in the 2nd round. Khabib, usually ice-cold and emotionless, started crying in the middle of the octagon. He continued on the path he started with his father for the first time without him. After the fight, Khabib took off his gloves and announced in an interview that he would no longer fight. He took over the team his father had left him. 3 years ago, Khabib ended his fighting career and became the best fighter in the weight classes above. As Khabib's career ended this way, his father Abdulmanap's plan was also fulfilled. Islam Makhachev became the new lightweight champion after defeating Charles Oliveira on October 22, 2020. Nowadays, especially recently, Khabib's victories, his 29-0 record, and even his dominance are being debated. At this point in the video, I'd like you to share your thoughts on lightweight in the comments, because what I will discuss next is important. Firstly, Khabib is criticized for the matches at the beginning of his career. People claim that Khabib faced easy opponents early on in his career. Let's take a closer look at Khabib's first 10 fights together. Are these criticisms valid? Let's see. Khabib's first professional fight was on September 13, 2008, against Vusal Bayramov. Like Khabib, Bayramov was also making his debut in 2008. He lost to Khabib by submission in the first round. Bayramov continued his MMA career until 2011, competing in a total of 7 fights and winning only 2 of them. Overall, Bayramov did not have a successful career. However, he too was making his debut in 2008, just like Khabib. Just 1 month after this fight, Khabib participated in a tournament and faced Khabib Nurmagomedov. Magomedov, who had 4 fights in his MMA career, lost all 4 of them. Khabib fought Magomedov for 2 rounds and won by judges' decision. On the same day, Khabib faced 2 other opponents and defeated both by judges' decision. The first fighter he defeated had only 1 MMA fight, which he won, and the other had only 2 fights, both of which he won. A year later, on August 8, 2009, Khabib faced Saeed Ahmed, defeating him in the first round. Said Ahmed had only 1 fight in his entire MMA career, and that was against Khabib. On the same day, Khabib faced Eldar Eldarov, who would go on to have a good MMA record in the coming years, and knocked him out. With the win against Eldar Eldarov, Khabib improved his record to 6 wins and 0 losses. In his next 4 fights, only 1 went to the judge's decision. The criticism directed at Khabib is that his early opponents did not have strong MMA records. However, Khabib himself did not have an outstanding record at that time either. Moreover, 3 of his first 6 fights took place on October 11, 2008, and 2 on August 8, 2009, all part of consecutive tournament matches. The conclusion we can draw from this is that there was no deliberately chosen pool of weak opponents. Instead, Khabib participated in tournaments where he fought whoever was put in front of him, defeating them all, often on the same day. The second point to consider is Khabib's dominance. In my opinion, Khabib was the most dominant fighter in UFC history. Many people disagree, believing Khabib was not dominant. The reasons for this belief include his perceived lack of striking skills and the outcome of the Tibau fight. Khabib faced Gleison Tibau on July 7, 2012. Throughout the fight, Khabib couldn't take down and dominate Tibau, who was very skilled in wrestling. However, Khabib won the fight due to the pressure he maintained. Khabib is often compared to Jon Jones when discussing the greatest fighter of all time. Jon Jones, for instance, lifted and slammed Olympic champion Daniel Cormier. Throughout his career, Khabib lost only 2 rounds. The first was the 3rd round in his fight against Conor McGregor, where Khabib predominantly stood and struck with Conor. The second was the first round in his fight against Justin Gaethje. Losing a round means the judges gave that round to the opponent. Another point of criticism against Khabib is that he should have dominated Conor and Justin while standing. However, after losing those rounds, Khabib finished both opponents in the following rounds. Frankly, I don't agree with this criticism, and I don't think it's valid. Khabib Nurmagomedov, at the beginning of his career, was not a great striker, but he showed everyone how much he improved over time. He caught Conor McGregor beautifully and submitted him. Later, he put incredible pressure on Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje while standing. However, was Khabib Nurmagomedov really the greatest of all time? Khabib is one of the best fighters in UFC history, but not at the top. In 2020, no one could have beaten Khabib Nurmagomedov in the lightweight division. That's a fact. The reason Khabib is criticized so much is because he retired early. With Islam Makhachev's performance against Alexander Volkanovski, we learned that Dagestani fighters can be beaten, but Khabib is not Islam Makhachev. We must admit that Khabib was on a much higher level than Islam Makhachev. Also, he was heavier and stronger compared to a typical lightweight. In his normal life, Khabib walks around at 85 kilograms, but cuts down to 70 kilograms for his fights. As I mentioned, there was no one at that time who could beat Khabib in the lightweight division. However, claiming that Khabib is the best fighter in UFC history would be disrespectful to fighters like Jon Jones, Anderson Silva, and Demetrius Johnson. The simplest example is that Jon Jones defended his title 14 times, while Khabib defended his only 3 times. Jon Jones moved up to the next weight class and became the champion there as well. Khabib, on the other hand, didn't even consider the welterweight division while Kamaru Usman was there. To summarize, Khabib could have been the undisputed greatest fighter in history, but his retirement announcement during the peak of his career took him out of that discussion. It's not true that he faced easy opponents at the beginning of his career. He fought 3 different opponents on the same day in the same tournament, not choosing his opponents. Recently, his dominance has also been questioned, especially his third round against Conor McGregor, the first round of the Justin Gaethje fight, and his performance against Tibau. These aspects of his career will be discussed for years to come. The only thing that is true is that he finished all 29 of his fights. Thank you for watching so far. If you're not subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to subscribe, leave your comments, and like the video. Take care and stay healthy.